Hello, welcome back. Chase Mo's podcast, taping this on a Thursday afternoon, just a few days before Christmas. Khobi Price is here of the Orlando Sentinel. Khobi, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, Chase. How are you doing? Appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you being here, man. What is your number one Christmas gift of all time? What was the best one you've ever gotten?
A car.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I guess peel back the curtain. My birthday's on Christmas, so
Is it really? My wife is Christmas Eve.
Yeah. So it's a birthday. It was a birthday / Christmas. So, but yes, that is definitely number one.
So how does that go for you? Are you just used to it now? Was it tough growing up having a Christmas birthday, or do you don't know any different? So it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know any different. So for me, and like I wasn't the kid like who grew up was like comparing birthdays. Like, oh, their birthday's like this, my birthday. Like I know no different. Just my birthday's on Christmas, or I was born on Christmas. So
yeah,
that's just what it is. But yeah, it's that's always just like I don't like. It's not like one day like when I was 9, like you know what, your birthday's gonna be on Christmas now, and all that before it's just like no, that's all I know. So.
Did your family and friends like separate it growing up, where they're like, here's your Christmas gift and this is for your birthday?
Yeah, so typically growing up, even now, like I'll have do a birthday celebration like outside of Christmas. So growing up, it may be like the week before Christmas or like 2 weeks before Christmas, and my girlfriend and I would do something like typically like the 26th.
Okay.
After Christmas, or the day after Christmas and the day after whatever, the 27th. So there's usually some sort of celebration before or after. And that's how it was growing up too. So there's like enough separation for it to be like, this is your birthday celebration and this is your Christmas celebration.
I like it. And you cover a team that will not interfere ever on Christmas for you. I don't think the Orlando Magic are ever going to be an NBA Christmas destination.
We'll see. I actually have a story coming out about that on Christmas. But yeah.
Are you breaking some news, Khobi?
No news breaking. It's just like, I'm trying to think. Well, this is I'm going to mention the story. Just like how long it's like has been. 2011 was the last time they played Christmas.
Yeah,
it's like seeing all the other teams who have played since then. Like you just figure, like you figure at a certain point you have to get back into it. Like there's a lot of teams who have played on Christmas since the last time they played on Christmas, and it's also.
Well, I feel like they did. What was the year? Was that Christmas that they did Magic Pistons in Detroit? Was that a Christmas game, or was that with T-Mac? I'm trying to think all the way back then. Was that an Easter game maybe? I remember it was some kind of holiday because I remember weirdly watching that from beginning to end at my grandparents' house. I don't remember if that was a Christmas or not, but I do remember being at a family gathering for some sort of holiday thing. It might have been Easter that they had Pistons Magic on. 2011. Who would that have been? Who were they playing?
2011. So that would have been Thunder Magic.
Thunder Magic. Okay.
Yeah,
I have no recollection of that.
Yeah, it was one of those odd like matchups, like why I put the Thunder against the Magic. But yeah, that was their last Christmas game because that was the last year with Dwight. And
wow.
Yeah, since then. I mean, that was I'm pretty sure if that's the last year of Dwight, then that would have been the lockout season.
Man,
yeah,
time flies.
That was the lockout season. Because that was also the opener. So there you go.
Man, 11 years ago. What was this last year? That's crazy. Well, we're going to talk about a team you cover and are very inundated with, Khobi, because the Magic are kind of catching a lot of people by surprise the last month or so, making significant strides. Part of that is Paolo Banchero, who's just been electric out of the gate for them. And who knows what this record looks like if he's not hurt for the time that he was out. But we'll get into Paolo in a second. But my broad question to start things off here for you is just, what's happened? How would you explain to people who are not watching the Magic night in, night out? Like, why are they a much better team, and what's flipped that they are actually winning some important games that they have not won since really going down this rebuilding effort?
There are a lot of different things that are happening. You can point to maybe like 4 or 5 main things, but at the top of the list to me is simply the continuity that they hadn't had really at any point of the season until, the end of November, beginning of December. I actually was just writing about this. They've had at least 5 guys out every single game of this season. And there's been one, I guess you would say, there's been one constant in the guys who've been out. That's Jonathan Isaac. He hasn't played the season, but other than that, like the guys who have been in and out of the lineup have changed, throughout the year. There's at one point they missed as many as I think 8 guys in a single game, and it was when Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony came back November 30th against the Hawks. They lost that game. They lost that game. Then they played the Nets, and then they played the Raptors. They lost those 3 games. But once Markelle and Cole Anthony's minutes restrictions were lifted and they were able to play the typical minutes that you've seen them play over the past 2.5 weeks, that's when you've seen them get into a rhythm on both ends of the floor. But it starts with being able to have, all right, if you're Coach Jamal Mosley, I know the 9 or 10 guys I'm going to play every single game. The rotations have been the same pretty much every game over this long stretch. The responsibilities what's been asked for have been the same over this 9 to 10 game stretch, and that's just not something that was asked of or was even possible because of all the absences and because of the guys going in and out of the lineup from mid-October through late November.
Interesting. How has Markelle Fultz been since he's been back? How has he been? Because that was a question I had when he was coming back. You're like, oh, you're kind of winning basketball games, and you kind of turn the corner with Markelle not back, and they have a lot of guards that just need to play. And I mean, Cole Anthony, you have Suggs, who obviously they've invested a lot in as a high lottery pick, and you got to have him play a bunch and keep the ball in his hands. And then Paolo is so good with the ball in his hands that you're like, all right, how is Jamal Mosley going to be able to navigate this many young guys who need the ball to be effective? And I mean, not even mentioning Wagner as well, who's great with the ball in his hands, who we'll talk about in a second. But how is Markelle fit in since he joined kind of a crowded guard room?
Like a glove. And that's kind of what, throughout their losing streak, they lost 9 straight games at a certain point, even their early struggles in the season, there was reasonable optimism about what this group could be, especially once Markelle came back, because how many saw it was he was going to be maybe not the guy, but a guy who could help put this team together, right? Because Paolo is a good ball handler and Franz Wagner is a good ball handler for their size and for their positions, but there's so much responsibility was put on their shoulders in a way that, Paolo, as good as he is, he's still a rookie. Franz Wagner, as good as he is, he's still a second-year forward who, up until a few years ago, wasn't really accustomed to playing the more pick-and-roll heavy style of play. And you could tell because there's some growth and adjustments that he was going through, being asked to be a ball handler more than he was last season, and before last season, pretty much any other part of his, youth career. So Markelle and even Cole, to another extent, just bring a certain level of just poise as ball handlers, a certain level of maturity, of a certain level of just knowing how to help put guys in their spots to thrive. And that's what you see Markelle do. Even if he's not scoring, he's setting a certain tone, he's setting a certain pace offensively. And defensively, he's shown the ability to just be very reliable at the point of attack. Just be a guy who you can throw out there, and he'll do his best slowing down the opposing guard. And that's before we get into the fact that his actual shooting has improved, or at least through the 10, 11 games he's played, it's looked pretty good. I know he's only taken 1.5 threes per game in the 12 games he's played, and so the fact that he's shooting 44% on it, you don't go crazy about it. But even from the mid-range, his shots look smoother. And just watching him work in practice and, during whatever training camp that he could have and during practices and shoot-arounds, you can tell a lot of work has been put to adjusting and changing up his jump shot. And the work's paying off right now.
Do you think he's still part of the core? Do you think they see him as a core guy?
I would, with the way that he's spoken on, I would imagine so. I don't know if it's in the same way that you imagine like Paolo and Franz being a quote-unquote core guy, maybe even Wendell, especially because Markelle has this season on his contract and the next season, which is partially unguaranteed or partially guaranteed rather. But, other than that, that's kind of what I think what is being shown for him, or what he's trying to show, that he is a core guy and he can be part of the glue or the infrastructure that pushes this team to the next level. He showed that last year when he came back from his injury and his play. And I think he's showing it again that he can be a significant reason why this team can get to a different level. And he can fit with Franz and Paolo. He's shown that already. Then, he'll be able to play with Wendell. He's been able to play with Cole. Like, he's able to get his feel for this Magic team, because before this season, and honestly most of last season, because of the time when he returned, he hadn't really played with many of the main guys since tearing his ACL in January 2021.
Interesting. Do you think the Magic are going to get a first for Mo Bamba, or is that just something that's just out there? It's like they know they're not getting a first for Mo.
Getting a first for Mo Bamba, depends who the team is. I think that's really what it is. Like, I know there are teams who are interested in Mo.
Do you think he gets moved?
I just think that I would lean towards release right now. No. Just because, one, I mean, I guess that really depends on whether the Magic get what they want in terms of the offer from Mo. But two, they're still, I think the reason why the Magic are looking for a first for him is because they very much value him on this roster. Like, you can see the role he's played for them even during the past 2 weeks since he came back too, because he was out during a certain stretch with back pain, back spasms. Like, he's provided a certain value as a spacer, as a rim protector. He's improving certain nuances of his game. I don't think this is a situation where the Magic are just like, all right, we'll take whatever we'll take whatever, we want to get you out of here. It's not that kind of situation. So, like, teams are going to have to make very good offers for the Magic to, I think, really consider it. And even then, like, this team's had so much lineup. What do you want to call it? Mumbo jumbo? Yeah, fluctuation. I like that word better than mumbo jumbo. That sometimes, at least for me, I think about, well, you've already seen through whatever this is, 34, 33 games, just like how much fluctuation can happen. Like, you want to almost preserve that depth, because you never know you just don't know what's going to happen with your season.
Yeah, I like that. When you look at Suggs, who I think is playing a lot better this year, and like one of the comps I saw, and people are like, well, best case scenario is he's like Kyle Lowry, right? Like, that's kind of what you want to build, is some version of Kyle Lowry with the way Suggs plays. But based on what you've seen this year, what is flipped for him that he really struggled with last year?
Well, I mean, when you ask me what I've seen, like, some of it, I feel like I'm going back in time, because he has been out for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, before he got, and even when
I should preface it, before the injury.
Yeah, and even like not the weird thing, but the unfortunate thing is, like, even those like the last couple of games he played, you could tell he was dealing with some level of ankle discomfort, because it's how he was playing. There was one game he just wasn't nearly as aggressive. But even with that, I think he had shown a better feel for not just getting to the rim, but just to slow down a little bit when trying to finish at the rim. A lot of times last year, it was a very just go, like battering ram to the rim. And he improved that a little bit after he broke his thumb and when he came back in the first few games. But now, like, before he got hurt, and it was only like a 14-game sample where he was able to actually be on the floor consistently. You could tell that things were slowing down a little bit for him in that regard, just finishing, getting into the paint, and just making a play from there. And the shooting had come along a little bit. You like I said, such a small sample of 14 games, where the pull-up three was there, but the catch and shoot three wasn't there. So you're curious about, like, how reliable or how consistent that will be, especially because of the dynamic of that. But I guess those would be the areas that I saw the most growth with him, especially just getting to the paint and finishing at the paint, finishing side the paint, finishing at the rim, compared to where he was last year.
When you think about all the difference, we talk about the fluctuation in lineups, like what's the best 5-man lineup that you've seen the Magic throw out this year? What do you think is their best 5?
I think the best 5, what was it? I think it was a lineup of Franz Wagner, Terrence Ross, Bull, Paolo Banchero, and Wendell Carter Jr. I think that was the best five. I think numbers wise, that may have been the best five too, or still is the best five. I actually haven't looked it up in a couple of weeks, but just from the eyes, like that was one of their best lineups I had seen this season. They with Terrence, you had that certain level of just movement shooter who could thread in out, and you just had so much. This lineup played a lot more early in the season, so there was less intel on the Magic's big lineup. They play these bigger lineups of like 4, 16 guys. Yeah. So other teams didn't have as much of, I guess, intel or a game plan of how to attack it. So they were just throwing teams off with the size and the length, and just really able to bottle teams down in that way. So it was a small sample. I forget exactly how many minutes they played together, but that was one of the better lineups. And obviously, we haven't seen Wendell on the floor since November 19th or November 18th. So that lineup hasn't even been able to have the potential to play in over a month. But when they did play, that was one of the more impressive lineups I've seen.
In terms of Paolo, what makes him great right out of the gate? Why is he dominating the way he is as a rookie?
I think it's just the maturity. And it shows mentally and physically. So if everyone goes physically, just the ability to just force defenders into bad situations, able to get into the paint pretty much at will. You see it on post-ups. You see it sometimes on drives too, where he's able to angle his body and just force his way into situations. And the defender just feels like there's nothing I can do about this because this guy is 6'10", 250 and muscular and strong, and now I have to foul him. And next thing you know, Paolo's getting to the line 8.5 times a game. So, and then the poise, you've seen this a little bit more in the past few games, the poise to just start to pick his spots a little bit, especially as a passer. He has a few nice over-the-shoulder passes that he makes out of the post. And you can feel him start to get a rhythm for that. So I think that's the biggest thing. The poise and maturity physically and mentally to just say, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And you can kind of tell just by looking at his numbers, and then you see he's taking 8.5 free throws a game. For anybody, that's impressive. For a rookie, that's almost unheard of. It's one of the best marks for a rookie in the history of the league, especially in the modern era. So that's, to me, something that makes him stand out.
Who do you think he has the best chemistry with on the team?
I think Markelle as of right now. It's either Markelle or Bull. Because I think Markelle and Paolo have figured out a nice chemistry over the past 12 games, just playing off one another and picking roles. And Markelle's helped set Paolo up for certain catch and shoot opportunities. And I think Paolo's starting to get used to being set up in that way, because early in the season there wasn't as much help for him to get set up with. They didn't have as many guards available, or guards they were playing rather. But Bull, like Paolo likes to throw some alley-oops to Bull, and sometimes they're very adventurous or bold. Like he'll throw it, and like even Bull, who's 7'2" and has the wingspan that can reach up to the top of the hoop, he misses it, but he's very like willing to throw an alley-oop past the Bull. But I right now I say Markelle, and they're still working on that chemistry. Like I said, they've only played in 12 games together, I believe. But you can see them start to figure out the pieces of, like Paolo likes to be here, let me set Paolo up there. And inversely, like Markelle likes to do this, he likes to make this certain pass. You can see them start to figure that out.
I like it. We'll end on this. Do you think we see Jonathan Isaac this year?
I do. I think he'll come back. What is this, 2022, 2023 season? I think he'll come back this season.
What makes you say that?
It's just knowing what he's doing now, just in terms of practicing. Getting with the Magic's G League team down in Lakeland, with the Lakeland Magic, being able to practice with them, being able to practice a little bit with the Orlando Magic. You can tell, and I know this is like almost one of those like duh comments because he should be, but you can tell he's much further along than he was last year before he messed up. He had the hamstring injury, the hamstring setback. So knowing that, I guess, gives confidence or just belief that he should be back. This is December, late
22nd,
December 22nd. We still have January, February, and then you get to like March and you're just like, all right, he should definitely be, you hope he'd be back by then, but there's still more than enough time to get back, especially if he's already on the floor, actually getting in 5-on-5, actually, bumping with guys, full contact, full court. That gives confidence that he'll be back at a certain point this season.
I like it. Khobi, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at the Orlando Sentinel? What can we look out for from you this week?
Yeah, like I think I alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, I'm going to have a Christmas Orlando Magic NBA story. It's not going to be a breaking news story. Just kind of talks to the guys about the fact that it has been 12 years since the Magic have been in a Christmas game, and looking like how, what it takes to get back to that level. There was a certain point where, the Magic were, and I'm not going to say they were like the Lakers in terms of they were on Christmas every single year, but they had these nice stretches where they were on Christmas, pretty consistently. You think about LeBron's first Christmas game that came against the Magic and T-Mac and that crew. And then you think about the Dwight years, they had several Christmas games in a row. Shaq, Christmas game. So they've had these stretches of Christmas games. So just understanding what it takes to get back to that level of consistently being featured on that day.
I like it. Well, Khobi, happy early birthday. Merry
Appreciate
Christmas. I hope you have a great holiday season, safe travels, all that good stuff. And we'll have to reconnect again soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me on. Merry Christmas to you too.
Absolutely. Talk soon, Khobi.
All right.